I never heard that one before, did you? Like, I don't need to say anything else. Right? So, miracles we're talking about, and one of the things about miracles is our attitude. So we have an advantage when we have a correct attitude. You've all heard of Norman Vincent Peale. He's probably the first motivational speaker, The Power of Positive Thinking, right? And he spoke about, and he was a traditional Christian. He was not a New Thought speaker. He was a traditional Christian. So he taught that we should read the Bible and all that stuff. But what he taught that other Christian ministers weren't teaching, that we should find the positive stuff in the Bible. Not that stuff about being miserable sinners and burning in hell and all that stuff. We were to listen to the positive messages. And then, of course, there was Robert Schuller, right? And he spoke a lot of things too. He was Christian, but he always found the positive things in it. He always talked about you take words like the Beatitudes and call them the Be Happy Attitudes. Remember that? And he always talked about an attitude of gratitude. And that showed up in miracles in his life. Look at that Crystal Cathedral thing he built. You know, it's attitude. It's what you expect, what you think you can do. Here's a quote from Melody Beattie. Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. Can you ask for a bigger miracle than that? All those are miracles in themselves, and they're happening every day all around us if we're open to observing and seeing them. So there's a very distinct advantage to having a positive attitude, an attitude of expectation, an attitude of openness to miracles, an attitude of the normalcy of miracles. And I think a lot of people get fused by all this motivational talk, you know, we have about loving thyself. That's important, loving thyself. But for most of us, we only take half the equation, because the other half of the equation is to remember that thyself is also everybody else. And so when we're only loving this part of it, we cut ourselves off from that part of it. So the miracle attitude about loving thyself is recognizing thyself as one. We're only one. We can't really love ourselves unless we're loving all those other creepy people out there who are also us, right? I have a story to tell you. I directed a number of musicals, and I directed The Music Man one time. It involves a number of children. It was in a town on the island called Sept. And a little girl came. There's a little girl who's needed to play. Her name is Amaryllis, and she has to play piano and she has to sing a duet, so she needs to be good. Well, one of the girls I worked with before, who was wonderful, brought her little sister, who was about 10 years old. She has this long braid down to here. She can play the piano, she can sing. I'm saying, oh, thank you, God, thank you, God. Anyway, we do the play, and the local Sept Mirror newspaper runs this article extolling the virtues of this little girl, who was really just a small part of the play, but that's, and saying what a great future actress we had that was just going to be such a star in our community. And I sort of said, not if I'm directing, she's not. Because when I have people come out to audition, I talk to them about their attitude, and we look at their talents. So when kids come out, I know kids get involved in a lot of things, so I ask them, what else do you do that might, you know, conflict a little bit? You might have a choice. If it's soccer practice and play rehearsal, what's going to be your commitment? You know, and if they can say, okay, play's only 3 months, I'm prepared to commit to this, I can play soccer anytime, that's what I want to hear. And she assured me all that good stuff, and she said all the good stuff. Well, this little genius of an actress, she came to several rehearsals with her ankles all wrapped up in bandages. She sat in a secretary's chairs and had the other children push her around because she was lame, you know. And then when it came her time to do her solo dance, all of a sudden she was miraculously whole, and she was there doing the splits with everybody else. A week before the production, without saying anything to me, she had her long braid caught off into a little fashionable modern day, fashionable hairdo where she was supposed to be in 1907. And then the next thing she did was on dress rehearsal day, she telephoned me and she said, I have a hockey game today. So what I'm going to do is at halftime, I'll come over in my skates. The rink was just across the river from there. I'll come over in my skates and then you can run my part and I'll go back. And I said, oh yeah, because honey, there's a million little girls out there who can sing and want to be on stage, and it ain't going any further with me because it's attitude. You need the talent, but you gotta have the attitude. And attitude is what can make things work in your life. And it's a commitment to what's most important. So this idea, yeah, I gotta look after myself. I can have anything I want. You forget that the rest of us are part of you. And we have, you know what I'm saying? You're getting where I'm going with this? We need to have an attitude that we're all one. We're all one. I have another story for you in a minute. Something else. Oh yeah. Remember when we were about 13 and the hormones started to kick in? We started to notice there was boys and girls. And you know how the boys went really weird? They loved to harass the girls. And you know how the girls weren't really weird? We loved to giggle and make a big thing. And there was two things. I lived out in the country, and it's quite a long walk home, so a lot could happen on the walk home. Two things the boys loved to do. One boy in particular, who was, I guess, ADHD. He loved to steal our scarves in the winter. Scarves are very important back in rural Ontario. He'd steal our scarves. The girls would make a big fuss. They'd run and snitch. They'd say all the nasty things they were going to do. They'd fuss and cry. And in the summertime, he liked to chase us with snakes. The more you fussed and cried, the more you got chased. I wasn't stupid even then. And there was nobody more than me that wanted to be away from these snakes. I tell you, I did not want a snake down the back of my shirt. I clued in. I said, if I fuss and run and scream, I'm going to get chased more, right? If I pretend that I don't give a damn about the stupid scarf my grandmother knit for me, he's going to drop it soon. But the girls would get all into it, when they'd scream, and they would attract that to them. You know how that works in your life? Can you translate that to anything else in your life? The more you fuss and rail against it, the more something's going to attract it to us. So we just kind of, what about ticklish? Anybody ticklish? No. If you're really ticklish, if you're really, really ticklish, and somebody wants to tickle you, especially your feet, you need them to stop. You need them to stop. I had a husband one time who used to put a lit cigarette between my toes and tickle my feet. You need them to stop. And the thing is, if you're in that and you're saying, I need you to stop, they get even more excited and they do it even more. You know what I'm hearing? So I learned to relax and pretend that my tickling toes with a lit cigarettes between my teeth, toes, didn't bother me. What's our attitude toward it? And when we can just have the accepting attitude, then there's a space for things to disappear. Another miracle, right? Here's an example of how attitude affects reality. That medical, there's wonderful miracles available in medicine, and I thank God for some of them. But I like to stay out of doctors' offices as much as I possibly can. So I do not go for annual checkups. And I had not been for an annual checkup for probably 6 or 7 years when I met my doctor in the supermarket. And she also happened to be a personal friend. And she pointed out to me that I had not been in for an annual checkup and that I should come in. And so I said, okay, because I've been feeling very tired lately and I'd also gained some weight. So I thought, okay, I'll go in. So she did a complete examination. She said, I need you to go in for a CAT scan. She said, there's something on your ovary. And I said, oh, okay. So I go home and I do what you would probably do. I go on Google and I look up ovarian cancer, right? Isn't that what you do? And I find out that ovarian cancer is what's called the silent killer, and it has very few symptoms early on. But the two symptoms it has is fatigue and weight gain or loss. Now, how many cancers gain weight, you know? Okay, so that's it. So I've got ovarian cancer. So then I go on and I start researching everything else, and I look up to see all the kind of side effects and symptoms, and guess what? You know, I start to have an ache in my, God, bone cancer, eh? And a headache, oh God, it's spread to my brain. And so it takes about 2 weeks to go through this. When my doctor calls me and says, it looks totally benign, we'll just take it out and you'll be fine. So then I have to realize, oh my God, I'm going to spend a couple of days in the hospital and then I'm going to live. You know, oh, imagine. So it was a fabulous 2 weeks. Talk about spiritual growth. All this time to reflect on what was my attitude towards this. What was my attitude towards this knowledge that I had ovarian cancer and I'm probably going to die in a few months? What was my attitude to that? Well, some of it was quite surprising. Because one of the attitudes I had to that was very mixed. But one of the senses I had was a sense of relief. I knew when I was going to die. I knew that I wasn't going to have to watch all my friends and family die before me. I knew that I wasn't going to have to worry about being old and could I support myself and look after myself and was I going to be capable of, you know, cognizant. I wouldn't have to cut the grass every week. You know, I wouldn't have to prepare a talk every Sunday. You know, there's all this stuff I wouldn't have to do anymore. Not only that, if I was sick, I could probably feel totally guilt-free about having all the afternoon naps I want. In fact, people would probably encourage that. People would probably come to see me, bring me flowers and cards, you know, bring me presents. There was all sorts of good things about having this course of thing that was going to happen to me. On the other hand, there was possibly the opportunity to demonstrate the truth of what we teach. My God, she healed herself of ovarian cancer just by doing treatment. Yes, it does work. She was right all the time. And then there was an attitude of a little bit of excitement and expectation, because I really do look forward to the experience of death. I think it's the ultimate mind expansion. I think it's going home, you know. I know I'm going to go there sometime. I'm looking forward to it. So, okay, this is fine. A little bit of excitement about that. And there was some fear, and there was apprehension. How will I deal with the pain? Will I be brave and an inspiration to people? You know, she's a minister, she has to die inspiringly, right? Could I do that? So it was really an opportunity for me to examine all those mixed attitudes I had. So then, when I realized that I wasn't going to die right now, they were just going to nip this thing out a year and I was going to be back to normal, then I started to look at my attitudes about that. And I realized my attitudes about that were equally mixed. Equally mixed. And it was almost like, well, there was almost like a little bit of disappointment. You know? I almost tried to convince my doctor that, yeah, maybe I really did. Because I had all this plan about how I was going to do it, and I was going to inspire the world and all that stuff. So then, when I realized I was going to live, I realized that there was some excitement about that, because yes, then I could travel, and then I could take another job in another, you know, center somewhere else, and I could learn more things. And so there's excitement. I could do plays, you know, I could keep doing the things about life, so there was excitement about that. And then there was some fear about life. You know, there's fear about life. What's going to happen to me? How am I going to age? How is it going to be for our world? Is our planet going to blow up and explode before I get out of here? You know, all that stuff. All those mixed feelings about something as significant as facing death. We have the choice to choose our attitude. And our attitude creates the experience we have. It's like so simple and so all-pervading. It's true of everything we do. So once again, it isn't the circumstances that decide what our experiences are in life. It's our attitudes about the circumstance that determines how we will experience life, right? Because we know all sorts of people in our lives that have the same circumstances as we do, and they all respond in totally different ways. You've heard the analogy that if 6 people witness an accident, you will get 6 totally different stories about what happened. It's all an attitude. So again, it's not that. I had a friend also who was undergoing treatment for prostate cancer. And he wanted to go on a trip with his wife, so they checked with his doctor, and the doctor said, yes, go. The wife understood that the doctor had said, it's very important you go on your trip with your wife, relax and enjoy yourself. We'll schedule, your therapy around that. The husband thought the doctor was saying, nothing I can do anyway, you may as well go. They were both there. They both heard the same words from the same time. When I was in college, it was in Los Angeles in 1960. And one of my professors in Philosophy 101 was a black man, and he was blind. Being black and being blind in LA in 1960 was probably a pretty tough road to hoe. But he was a wonderful man. I suspect now he very likely went to a New Thought church that I'd never heard of back then. But anyway, so we had a term paper to do, and I did mine on Maslow's theory hierarchy of needs, and I kind of put that into my own situation and the average person's, and what that looks like in our daily lives. And it looks like a successful career and a happy marriage and healthy children and all those things. Well, because the professor was blind, he couldn't read our papers and mark them, so we had to go up to the front of the room and read our papers to him. And he smiled politely as I read my paper, and then he asked me to put it down in front of him. And he felt it with his hands, and he took his red pencil, and he took a big red X right across everything. And he wrote, peace of mind. And at the time I was kind of pissed, because I thought I was crazy. I thought I had written a great term paper, but that piece of wisdom and knowledge has served me far better all my life than any old A on that paper would have been. Because all we're really looking for is peace of mind. Viktor Frankl said it in a concentration camp. You can take everything away from me, but my choice in my mind, how I will experience life. So all we really want is peace of mind, and we realize that we can choose that in any circumstance. It's got nothing to do with out there. It's got to do with our attitude. And that's what this philosophy teaches me. Peace of mind. Peace of mind comes when I know that the universe, spirit, God, is all of us together. That all of us affect each other, that I have a wisdom, that I'm connected in infinite mind, and as I make myself available to the inflow of that wisdom, I can be shown what to do, and I get peace of mind. And I align myself with the movement of God, which is always towards good, which always is towards expansion. Attitude. We can choose at any moment an attitude of the miraculous. You are a miracle. It's a miracle that we're here together. I love you. I salute you. Namaste.